Welcome to the Acronym Podcast, the only B2B marketing podcast where we don't care about CPLs, MQLs, and SQLs, and instead I'm going to be sitting down with the industry's top thought leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs to uncover how they were able to build the confidence to make the leap into entrepreneurship and ultimately break free of those golden handcuffs. I'll also be discussing my own story, scaling a multiple six-figure marketing agency in under 12 months, and hope to be able to inspire the next generation of digital marketers to make that leap into entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Chris Roach. In today's episode, I'm joined by Garret Mehrguth. We're going to discuss how he managed to start his agency fresh out of college and now 10 years later, how they're on track to hit $30 million in ARR. I'll see you in the episode. Hey, Garrett, thank you so much for coming on to the Acronym Podcast. Very much excited to learn about your story of getting into entrepreneurship in your marketing agency today.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Yeah, it'll be fun, man. I'm excited to chat with you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your marketing agency, Directive, and the type of clients that you work with, just to kind of paint a picture?
Yeah, Directive does marketing for technology companies. So we work with some of the largest technology brands in the world. Really, really excited about it. And we help them primarily with performance marketing, which we call customer generation.
Awesome. Very cool. And how long has the agency been around for?
For about 10 years now.
Do you have the first contract on your wall?
Yeah, because it's got a grease stain and the guy stiffed me. I didn't even put the amount on it. I was so bad at writing contracts, so I don't remember what the price was.
Got it. That's awesome.
I never got paid on the first one. I was helping the shawarma shop in East LA, and I was like built his Yelp page, built his Facebook. I never worked for anybody, so I was just like on YouTube teaching myself everything. And I was handing out flyers at like 24-hour fitness for him. And after like 30 days, I came in to get the check, and he said, "Come back tomorrow." And the whole place was boarded up. He was gone.
Oh, really?
That was my first customer.
So welcome to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well that sucks. And then you just keep going.
Yeah. That's quite the baptism of fire to get started with. But no, it's funny you have the contract on your wall. I actually have my first sales internship job. I had a copy of the contract, the first deal I ever had, in my top drawer in my home office, not in the RV at the moment, but in my home office in the top drawer. I still have that first ever contract. There's something about it that just kind of sticks with you.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just a good memory of kind of like, just keeps you humble, keeps you, remember how hard it is, and just got to work hard.
Now, a lot of people that listen to this podcast are in-house marketers, are looking to make that transition into starting an agency, starting consulting, fractional CMO work, kind of whatever direction that they're looking at based on their experience. You have a little bit of a different background in the fact that you didn't come from an in-house company where you worked for 10, 15 years and then decided you had the experience and the confidence to be able to go out. So can you talk a little bit about how you started your agency? Like, what was the kind of the decision process to go through with that?
So I did my degree in 3 years in economics at Azusa Pacific. I was a homeschool kid, so I had a bunch of credits and stuff from the junior college. So I was able to do my degree in 3 years. And then my fourth year, I did my master's. Now, at this point in my life, I wanted to play soccer professionally. So I was captain of a soccer team. I was on a scholarship. That's what I wanted to do. Didn't work out. I don't think I was good enough, frankly. I think it's probably the number one problem with why it didn't work out. I think the second problem was just body composition. Like I was too injury prone, just my muscles. And I don't think I should have stretched more just naturally. But I'm a very stiff person. So I tore my knee senior year, like second game. I'd been all conference the year before, but not first team or second. I was third team. So I wasn't like the best player in the conference. I was pretty good at my position. So I thought, hey, it's an outside back position. Maybe I could go pro. But I tore my knee, and it just was like, I didn't want to be that guy. If you've ever played sports, there's always that guy who's trying to make it, but everyone knows he's not going to make it except the guy.
Yep.
I like to think I'm self-aware enough. I'm very self-aware. It doesn't mean I can always solve the fact that I'm about to say something stupid or lose my temper or something. But it doesn't mean I'm not aware in the moment that it's happening. That's what I'm working on, right? Yeah. In that moment, I knew I wasn't good enough, right? And so I just kind of ate it. It wasn't easy or mentally or emotionally, but I ate it. And I said, I'm going to focus on my career. So I tried to go to Boston or Bain or McKinsey, Deloitte. I tried to go consulting. I mean, heck, I was trying to go to Northwestern Mutual. I couldn't get a job anymore. Nobody wanted to hire me. And I was like, all right, whatever. If you don't want me to hire me, I think I'm pretty good at consulting. I'll just build my own shop. You'll have to buy me one day. That was kind of my mentality.
Yeah.
And so I just had like 5 gigs. I was at the Chamber of Commerce. I was independent consulting for 2 different people that I invited to my graduation party, and then I like got jobs. I was like trying to pitch myself, like, $50 an hour, I'll do anything, So like, I got my master's. Which I obviously doesn't mean anything, but at that time you don't really know that you're a kid. So I was just trying to help people. I could look at a business and kind of figure out how to make it better. I didn't really have any hard skills, and so I was usually a pretty practical person. I was like, okay, people that are older with me have money. What are they bad at that they think I'm good at? And I'm like, the internet. And I'm like, all right. I didn't grow up on the internet. I got my Instagram account, I think, junior year of college. So it wasn't like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a lot of us that are a little older didn't necessarily, like, we had one computer in my house. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I grew up programming or something. I was like a jock. So I was like, all right, I'll just teach myself this. So I just went on like the Moz blog and YouTube, and I just like Moz. I think when I got my second account, he asked me to do a website. I'd built my uncle a website for like, I think $5,000, or $2,000, $1,000. I didn't make much money. I wasn't making anything, and I was on Fiverr. So most of my money I was making was on Fiverr. I think selling social media calendars for $5. They didn't used to be able to charge more. It was only $5 back then. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that. And then I built this website, and the next guy after the shawarma shop was a hookah shop. And he was like, can you build me a website? I was like, sure. So I built it on WordPress and like Genesis framework, and I like taught myself HTML, CSS, and I'd buy the Divi theme, and I was dragging and dropping. And I was like, yeah, I got this. So I did that, and he's like, can you make it rank? And I was like, I've never done it, but I could try. Like, I think I could probably figure it out for you. So I think I charged him $250 a month. And I ranked him number 1. So what I did is like, I read everything that was on the Moz blog. I think that they'd ever published. I think I went through literally every blog post. And like, I like to read. So I came up with a motto called learn, engage, create. So my whole mentality was if I could learn something new every day and engage with it by like applying it, like not just like read something. Like I'm not a big fan of like reading and then like, like pondering. I like want to go implement it.
It needs to be actionable.
Yeah, I need to interact with it, so it goes from more like theory to where I have a personal experience with some type of information, right? And so then I thought I could create more value for myself, for my customer. So it was this learn, engage, create. I made that little mantra for myself, and I just grinded out learning. And then I got pretty good at SEO when we started, and I think by the time I was like 23, I had the Allstate account, and that's kind of
wow.
Yeah. And then I still have it to this day, which is cool. But that's kind of how I got started. Yeah.
Got you. That's very cool. I think definitely the athletic background I can relate to. I played college soccer as well. I was Division 3. Came over from England to play, and got to the point where sophomore year I suddenly realised I'm playing Division 3. I'm not going pro anytime soon. And that was a lot of the logic why I came over to the States was in England. I don't know how familiar you are with kind of the English education system, but you get to a point where you either go pro at 16, 18, or you stop playing. There isn't really the collegiate system in the same way. And I was at a point where I was like, I don't want to give up playing. I was on a good team. I was doing well. I enjoyed playing. I was like, maybe I'll go pro in America then. Like, that'll be easier. I get here only to find out that everyone's like an unbelievable athlete at the college level. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are running miles in like 5 minutes. I was a forward in England, and I'm thinking I'm, a little bit overweight at the time. I'm like, oh, this will be easy. I'm just going to bag goals.
A lot of people come over here and think the level's not quite as high as it is.
Oh, holy shit. I was like, this is unbelievable.
We don't have the same culture around it and maybe the same tactical understanding, but at an athletic level and a technical level, the team, they're pretty phenomenal.
At the athletic level, it's unbelievable. At Division 3, what division is Azusa? Is it 2, 3?
It was NAIA was why I went. So they had just put 3 people in the draft. So I went there because I had a bunch of offers to go play like Cal, UC Davis, and other top D1 schools. And I went here on a full ride because it was a Christian school. I grew up a missionary kid. And they had just won the national championship. So they had just beat, UC Santa Barbara that summer, and they were beating all the top D1 programs because we had all the ex-pros from Brazil and Germany coming here, and then we had all D1 transfers. So we weren't like the normal school. This was like the powerhouse, been in the national championship 4 years in a row or something at the time. And so I was like,
Got ya.
all right, I'm getting a full ride. My parents really wanted me to go to Christian school. I'm going to go here. I should have went D1. It was a mistake because the level of intensity of the practice and the coach that I was recruited by went to SMU after I had signed.
Oh, got you. Yeah.
Yeah, so this wasn't like normal D2 NAIA when I went there. And then I'm too loyal. I just grinded it out. And we did well. I mean, we would go to the Nationals, and it was a good team. And I got to have an impact. But I think player development-wise, the practice, the level of, like, because I had the athletic side. I needed, I think, more on the tactical mentality side of just how to read the game and how to play it. And I think I would have got more of that in practice at the D1 level, which I think would have been better for me. I would have outworked the guys there. And I would, like, in other words, if I could have came in and not been as good as a freshman and been like had to earn it, it would have been I would have been one of those guys that junior, senior year could have, I think, gone to that next level because I had the athleticism and the mentality. I just needed more, I think, development, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. And mentality is a huge part. And one of the big beliefs that I've had for a long time is college athletes make better entrepreneurs as well. In the fact that making that transition, I think they make phenomenal salespeople. I think entrepreneurs especially, trying to overcome something. And it sounds like you're probably very similar to me in the way that I have a huge chip on my shoulder. It sounds like kind of going into, where you did, like trying to get into the consulting. For me, I actually interviewed for a very large demand generation agency and got to the final interview and was told, listen, it's not going to be a fit right now, but come back. And I said, I'm going to go start my own agency. And now we're taking their clients from us 2 years later. And it's like, you know what? Screw you. Like, that's kind of the chip on the shoulder. And it sounds like you kind of have that same mentality. And coming from that collegiate athletic background, you have to outwork. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to constantly, show up every day when you don't want to. You don't have a choice with that. And when you apply those same principles to entrepreneurship, getting started and continuing through that attrition becomes a lot easier. Now, I can only imagine as someone that's, 21, 22 years old, that's graduating, that's starting a consulting firm, that must have been pretty difficult when people are saying, well, tell me about your experience. Why would I hire you versus somebody else? Like, how did you start to really get traction with those first couple of clients? Because, you're in a competitive space and it's not like I was in Wisconsin, middle of nowhere. Getting clients was a little bit easier in the fact that there wasn't that much competition, but you're out in LA here. Like, how does that work with competing with some larger agencies right off the bat?
I made everyone get results every single time, first and foremost. So every time I got a customer, I got a case study. So I thought that was helpful. Mm-hmm. I think I have some God-given gifts around consulting that just fit my strengths. And I think I got lucky in the sense that, like, I'm in a field where everything I'm naturally good at is, like, required for the field's success. And I think that's the part people don't always get is, like, a lot of times, like, your success in something is mostly around fit. I like to say I've got gills, so I can live in the mud. The agency game is the hardest game in the world. There is nothing harder than running an agency. But the harder something is, the more I enjoy it. Like, I'm wired weird. So, like, I like that. So, for me, like, I'm a good fit for agencies. You have to be good at sales. You have to be good at leadership. You have to be able to cast vision and inspire others. You have to love to just work really, really hard. You have to be able to get punched in the face, get back up, get punched in again, get back up, get punched again. You get punched in the face every day. Mm-hmm. And you have to almost like getting punched in the face to be really good at this. There's no, like, magic bullet. The guys you see that are the biggest just outwork people and don't give up. Like, the way I say is, like, the reason people kind of, like, there's, like, kind of three things that hurt people's success in agencies. They're bad with their money. They're bad with their values. Or they get satisfied. Those are three reasons. That has nothing to do with anything else. And so I really think those things come easy for me. Like, I enjoy capital. I think I did all of our finance till we got past 17 million. Mm-hmm. So I like finance. I like to work a lot of hours. I just enjoy it. It's how I'm wired. And, I like to think I stay pretty true to my values and honor people in my decision making. And so if you kind of do that consistently long enough, you can build a core group, you can develop a reputation, and you can build a culture that gets results. Because the bigger you get, when I started, I got to do the work myself. Now I might be 6-7 layers away from the person doing the work. And so it's more about setting standards, expectations, and its culture that dictates quality, not process. But it's really like leadership, culture, standards, and values that get you to success when you're larger. It's not process. And process needs to be controlled at departmental levels so that leaders are empowered. There's much more to running large organizations than process. It's more about leadership, culture, values, decision-making, standards. And so all of that's easy for me, just the way I was raised. So I think that's allowed us to become a larger agency just because that's kind of how we're wired, you know?
And for context, when you talk about a larger agency, how big is the agency right now in headcount, in revenue? You know, where is the agency at?
We're at about 150 people globally as full-time employees. We'll probably do around, hopefully, 35 million this year.
Was the goal always to grow it that big? Are you still trying to grow it? Like, what's the end goal with the agency?
I would like to beat Dentsu Aegis, M4, and the rest of them. Or S4, Dentsu Aegis, Omnicom. I want to build the largest holding company in the world. Got
you. So for those that perhaps don't have that aspiration of growing a $30 million agency, I mean, you've talked there about a lot of the skills and requirements that you've had and you've had to develop, and that really, you know, sound like almost a God-given gift when you've kind of moved throughout your career, you know, what you've tended to lean into as kind of your strengths. For people that are looking to, let's say, they've just been laid off and they're looking to replace their income right now, if you want to make $100,000 a year as an agency, it's not hard. What advice would you have for people that are looking to just take that first step right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get a little confused at what they want. Like, I never want anything other than being the biggest agency in the world. That's all I've ever tried to do.
Got ya.
That's all I've ever wanted. I don't know how to, like, when I played soccer, I didn't want to make I was never like make a D1 team. That was never a goal. I wanted to be the best professional in the world. That's what I wanted to be. I worked every day like that. Now, I didn't have the God-given gifts to become that. So we all have capacities for what our aspirations are. I found that I haven't ran out of capacity yet in the agency game, so I haven't changed my ambition. And now I'm trying to learn M&A and more things with debt because I bootstrapped the whole thing. I haven't taken a penny from anyone since I was 18 years old. So I bootstrapped the whole thing. And so I'm now learning more about how finance, like debt and capital and more the other parts of the game. I'm trying to turn it into a holding company to learn that. Now, conversely, if I was just starting, and I do coach, agency founders for a living. So after hours, I coach agency guys. I charge $2,000 an hour, and I essentially coach them for what their goals are. None of them want to be billion-dollar holding companies. They want usually to be out of the day-to-day or have a more consistent pipeline or really define their positioning. They want to do more very specific tasks that I've had the blessing of going through myself. Yeah. So for most people, I would say is really niche down. Niching is the first step to growing your agency and just being successful and enjoying your shop. People, the buyer of today, they're not looking for an agency of record. I think even the big guys like my exec team, a lot of them will say, look, we got to become an agency of record. They want AOR, they want to be this stuff. I don't think that's what a buyer wants. I think a buyer is looking for a specific outcome and they're trying to find the best person in the world to accomplish a specific thing for them. Yeah. So when I look at people, individuals that are running agencies, the ones that do the best, like I started as just local SEO. I wasn't trying to do everything. I wanted to be the best at local SEO. That's what I knew. That's how I started. I had a bunch of small SMBs paying me $200 a month, $400 a month. I mean, I started as humbly, and I would start on Fiverr. Like, you really can't start smaller than I started.
Yeah.
Truthfully. Like 10 years ago.
Especially when Fiverr was literally Fiverr. Like, that's the whole point of it.
Like 10 years ago, I was selling $5 gigs. That's how I started. And I used that money to bootstrap Directive. That's it. Like, I started as low as you can humanly start. And I think we've always grown by re-niching and repositioning. So I started in local. So if I were to start an agency right now, I would just look at, okay, like if I was in-house, like a lot of your listeners, right? And I had a lot of experience, let's say, in cybersecurity. I would start with cybersecurity type consulting, right? And then within that, I wouldn't do generic consulting. I would take the one part of marketing I'm the best at, and I would just do that. And then I'd build case studies. And I would stay really humble. I think a lot of us in life want things we haven't earned. And
Yeah.
I hadn't earned larger engagements, and I never wanted to charge someone more than I thought I could create in value. So, I mean, for years, I mean, only till last year, I still had clients paying us $5K a month because I didn't think, we were at the level where we could charge more and exceed it in value creation. I've always tried to stay very humble about, what is my agency capable of doing versus what could I sell? Those are two fundamentally different things. So I think if you're starting out right now, just stay really humble, and stay really focused on the most valuable thing you can offer that you're good at, right? Value is the key. And so if you can connecting yourself to revenue is really important. So if you can do a good job of staying really focused on adding revenue to a business's strategy, right? And recognizing where you fit within the strategy of an organization, not the specificity of your own skill set. A lot of people think because they're good at something, it's valuable. I know I was really guilty of that when I started my consulting career. It was I thought SEO was more important than it was, so I could never understand why the CMO didn't care enough or didn't want this bad enough. And I'm I saw so much for their business through the lens of SEO. But then as I added more tools in my toolbox, I'm wow, SEO is a really powerful tool. But it's not more powerful than positioning. Mm-hmm. Right? And I realized, I don't really talk about positioning. So I'm doing all this keyword research and I'm ranking all this content and I'm driving all this results. But does it fit the business strategy? And are they able to monetize my work at the level they should? Maybe not. And so as you start maturing, you start seeing how you use the tools in your toolbox to create business value, that's when you go to the next level of consultant. And I think you can do that faster if you stay humble and niched and do fewer things. Most of the times I get an agency guy, they're doing too much stuff. When I'm coaching people, they're doing too much stuff. And I try to just get them, I say the depth of your solution is more important than the breadth of your activity. And that usually helps people go deeper where they add true business value.
We're going to take a quick moment to pause this episode and thank our sponsors. Firstly, we've got the first sponsor, which is True Classic, the clothing company. As you all know from all of my content, I've been wearing True Classic for the last 18 months, and it truly is the staple of my wardrobe. What I find is that a lot of the clothes that I buy previously were all too baggy. They didn't fit right. The best part about True Classic, not only is it incredibly soft, but for those of you that have broader shoulders, that have larger arms, who just tend to be a little bit more athletic, the fit is absolutely amazing. It makes you look great. And a lot of people call these really the push-up bras for guys. I can tell you, when you wear these t-shirts, you look good. If you're interested in trying True Classic, there's going to be a link in the description of this episode. There's going to be my personal link, or you can go to trueclassics.com/thechrisroach. Go ahead, check out the store. I guarantee you, you will not be sorry if you start wearing True Classics. If you do end up purchasing them, please let me know what you purchased. I'm curious to hear feedback. Moving on to our second sponsor, which is the Independent Marketer, which is an online course and community that I've created to be able to teach digital marketers how to go out and break out of the golden handcuffs and ultimately launch either their own freelancing career or build it into their own digital marketing agency. In the description is going to be a link to that course. And as a thank you for listening to this podcast, there's going to be a special $100 discount on that course as well. If you do have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me directly or shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Back to the episode. So at what point did you decide that you were going to transition out of SEO then in the first 12 months of running an agency?
I think I was probably 3 years in before I added a second service line. Yeah, it's I would professionally tell my best friend and business partner no. He would be like, hey, this client, because this is what happens, right? This is the game. And I'll give you a perfect little role play. So, all right, I'm doing my job. I'm whatever. He comes in my office. He's like, hey, so we got this customer, and their website stinks, and they're asking us if we could do a new website for them. Yeah. I'd be like, no. But, bro, we can get $5,000 in the bank right now. We're having a tough month. I'm like, do you know how to program? He's like, no. I'm like, do I know how to program? He's like, no. Oh, is it recurring revenue? He goes, no. I'm like, well, it ain't worth it, baby. Let's stay focused on what we're great at, and let's stay patient. So, you'd see all my competitors celebrating. They'd be beating me on these milestones, these revenues, and all this stuff. I'm like, it's all right. You can beat me for years. You can't beat me forever. I'll just keep going. and you just got to stay humble and disciplined. And so I would just be like fly swatting away ancillary services. Oh, what if we did their marketing emails? I'd be like, no. What if we did this? No. And I wanted to stay really, really good at what we were doing, because I knew as we got bigger, like, it gets hard to actually be good at what you do. Like, once you cross 10 million, most agencies turn to crap. They lose their soul. In other words, like, they'll take your money, but they don't get results often enough. And, they're only as good as their A team, or they're only as good as when they get clients that are perfect. And frankly, that's not a high enough percent of time to build a sustainable organization.
Yeah. There's two things that I think we should highlight from what you just said. First of all, is it recurring revenue? Is an immediate question you need to be asking yourself, because really when you're starting an agency,
it's really hard to monetize
project. It's brutal. It's so hard to.
You got to get another one. You got to get another one. Yeah.
It's absolutely constant. I for context, so I ran a software development agency for a number of years. We grew it to about $3.5 million a year, and that was kind of where the peak that we could get to in new business. We just couldn't get past because it was constant, just all projects. Right? Yeah.
Like in January you did one for 50, and if you want to grow the business, you not only have to get that 50 again in February, you got to get another 50.
Exactly, and it's new business constantly. And yes, there are some, and yes, you have retained, you have maintenance work you can do afterwards. There are some things, but the bulk of the project, specifically when you think about software development or websites or anything like that, it's a one-off project. And that's where I actually made the transition to running a marketing agency. I was like, I want something that's different. I was really consulting with a lot of the clients. We did, B2B SaaS, where we were building out their kind of their initial kind of the go-to-market, like commercial grade products. Once they fundraised, they'd come to us, we'd build it, and they were already leaning on me for advice with sales and marketing. So I was like, great, I'm just going to run straight into that. Let's just take that. We were having success. I was already consulting with them. I can now kind of make that leap and break out on my own to be able to do that. Now we're doing recurring. And yes, there's churn. You're not going to have every client stay with you forever. That's something that is an important part of running an agency, is understanding you will have clients churn. But when it's recurring revenue, you can scale that a lot more aggressively, because you can basically start to predict out the size of the team that you need, and you can expand according to that.
100%. And that's what I was just doing. It's like, bro, we're not going to do things that aren't recurring. And I would just kind of be like, let's not focus on that. And yeah, I mean, at first you make less money, of course, but you just need to have a little bit of a long-term vision and some to grow your agency large, you got to get really good at saying no to things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh yeah, expensive. Bad clients are more expensive than good clients. That's advice I give to a lot of agency owners that are just starting off right now. Is you need to be very, very selective in the first 3 clients, because it can be very, very expensive. And unfortunately, in this game, especially when you talk about niching down, your reputation's everything. So if you have those negative experiences,
I don't know if there's as many bad clients, Chris, as are bad account managers. I have found in general, most of us as humans are all the same. We want to get what we paid for, baby. I paid you X. I want to get Y back. And when you don't give me Y back, I'm not happy. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the customer's never the problem. Because every customer at one point did put their reputation on you. Especially when you're working with big organizations, right? I'm not working with owners. I'm working with a professional marketer who put their reputation on the line when they chose to hire me. And I take that exceptionally seriously. And I think that's what's allowed Directive to grow, is I take your reputation exceptionally seriously. And that standard comes to the point where it's never the client's fault. There's always something we could have done better. Because there's nothing more corrosive to agency culture than blaming customers. Because the clients are my boss. I'm nobody's boss. The customer is everyone's boss at this organization. So if you work at Directive, the boss is the customer. I don't pay your checks. The clients you manage pay your checks. You got to make them happy first, me happy second. And I think by keeping that, what happens is, I'd say even at 5 million, once you cross 5 million, the agency can become far more about serving itself and become internally focused, where everything's about new process, new systems, new offering, new SOW, new pitch, new deliverables. And it becomes internal drama. Well, Susan's killing me on this account, or I don't like Mikey, or Joe's this, or Jemmy's that. And it becomes very much about internal. And I think the biggest thing to keep your agency's soul is to always keep your focus externally. What's your renewal rate? How often are you hitting your customers' goals? I think what's the coolest part about Directive is we track how often we accomplish our customers' objective that they state in our onboarding when hiring us. And we track that. So like right now, I hit client goals over 75% of the time. That's not 100, so I'm not happy, but I'm proud because when I started tracking it, we were only at like 35%, and I didn't even realize it. It is exceptionally hard to hit customer objectives because they only hire you to do things they've never done before and that the previous agency failed at. Like nobody hires me as their first agency no more. Like we come in to solve big problems that no one else has solved. And I'm proud to say we do solve it over 75% of the time. But just tracking that's eye-opening. You know what I mean? Most agencies, they get big and the CEO hops on stage and they start doing these podcasts. And the only way they can say how great they are is by not looking at their company anymore.
Yeah.
And that doesn't actually make you great. And so I think you have to kind of try to keep your soul in this game and make sure you're always getting customers' results.
On the 25% that you've not hit, is that due to unrealistic expectations or is that due to work in progress still?
It's a bit of both. We track all of that. There are environments that are hard. So sometimes you'll get an environment maybe where they probably shouldn't have hired you in the sense that they can't actually fulfill your recommendations. So if I were to take the 25% and say how'd it go, I'd say probably 10, 15% of the time we're not able to deliver on the statement of work because of whatever reason. I'm not working with small organizations, right? I'm working with Uber, Amazon, Snap, Gong. Like these are the biggest players in B2B. I would say we are the largest B2B software consulting firm in the world. Sometimes you're working in, let's say, a fraction. Like a lot of times we got a business unit. So maybe it's a very large organization and they want to start up a new business unit. I think there's two things, like from what we can own and do better. It's like, I would never say it's because the goals are too big, because we have a goal setting process that we take you through that's derived based off your gross margin, your average order value, your financial modeling. We're exceptionally disciplined in how we set the goal with you. We weren't when we were at 35. So I would say we got most of poor goal setting out of the way. I'd say of the 25 we're missing, that's maybe another 10% where, you know, frankly, one of my consultants probably didn't do the best work. That's probably happening 10% of the time of that 25. Say the other 10% is where we're just in a situation that's just tough to overcome. It doesn't mean we can't overcome it, but it's tough. They have no dev resources to make changes on the website. Budget gets cut by 75%. CMO gets fired 1 week into onboarding. They have their whole marketing team gets laid off. So I'd say that's another 10%, especially when we're in these weird recessionary times. Like I can't tell you how many of my customers will show up to a call, marketing team's gone. There's no one on the call. We're just waiting on a Zoom call and it's spinning.
Yeah.
And then you go check, you look online and they did, they reducted 5,000 headcounts. Our whole team got laid off. Right? So I would say it's that. I'd say that's like what, 20% of it. I'd say the other 5% sometimes we're just not good enough, frankly. Like we did not deliver what we needed to the customer, and we weren't good enough. But I'm like a no BS, no hiding kind of guy. Like if we're not good enough, we got to eat it and we got to be better. So, I'd say we still like getting your hiring profile right. It's really hard. If you got 150 consultants, there is a potential that not all 150 are perfect, unfortunately.
I imagine there's a high percent that not all 150 can be perfect, and that's to me. I mean, obviously we're on a much smaller level right now. This year we will do between 250 and 350 without really trying to grow, like kind of baseline. The issue that I face right now is that I'm hitting that glass ceiling where I can't replicate myself. I have a team underneath me that handles a lot of the day-to-day of the marketing, but I still handle basically all of the account management. So How did you make that jump to where you were able to bring someone in and start basically replicating yourself? Was that through processes that you documented? Was that through kind of training one-on-one with them? Like, when did you decide you wanted to make that jump? And then how have you been able to scale that so large while still maintaining quality, even if it is at 99% of the time? Intensity around standards. I still make every customer matter, even the ones that you could argue don't, from a P&L standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. To me, everyone matters because someone put their reputation on the line when they brought us in. So I think
me treating every customer exceptionally seriously, and everyone knows that I'm going to have to talk to you if you lose a customer. Now, I'm not the one who talks to them anymore, but when I was your size, we'd have serious conversations, but I wouldn't fire them. I think that's a huge part. I never fired someone for losing an account in the history of the company. I think like the best person to fix something is someone who messed up, frankly. So like some of my best leaders in the organization have been with me for 7 to 10 years, or I guess like 7 to 8 years, I think is the longest, of like employees, not partners. They have like a certain grittiness to them. Like they want to be better, and they did mess up. Like they didn't either listen to the customer, they didn't have the right strategy. Maybe they just got burnt out that month and they didn't send the updates that they needed to, and they just didn't do their job, frankly. If they show me the reaction that they care deeply and that they're just developing, I'm kind of a ride or die kind of guy, to be honest. So I'll ride with you, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to let you hear it. Like I'm going to hold you accountable to what my standards of excellence are, but I'm not going to fire you. I'm going to just keep pulling you up, and you can quit if you don't want to be that. But if I'm working with someone and I care deeply about everyone I work with, I'm going to look them in the eyes and I can see what they're capable of. And all I'm trying to do is help them see the person I see. Because I can usually see how talented someone is, and I'm just trying to pull them up to their potential and hold them accountable to what they can accomplish. And so that to me is the best way of consistently getting, like what a lot of times what people do is they try to over-proselytize, and what they do is they drastically lower their ceiling because they're so scared of their floor. In other words, like many of us think that we can have our cake and eat it too, and we can't. So the more processes you develop, the more you raise your floor, but it's also the more you lower your ceiling. And so if you want your organization to do great work, not like consistently average work, which is what 99% of agencies do, but if you want to do great work, you can't rely on process. It doesn't mean you don't need it. I have a full team dedicated to systems and process. And then like if you saw our Notion, it would blow your mind. Everything's there. But that isn't what makes us good. What makes us good is there's a culture of intensity and competitiveness that we only hire the best. And if you're here, it's like you're a Navy SEAL. So I make directive and working at it like Navy SEAL boot camp every day. And I never take a day off. I'm still working 10, 12 hours a day, 10 years in. And I bring that intensity and that energy every single moment. And I've never taken my foot off the gas 1 millimeter. And when you do that, people then know what energy they need to bring to the organization. And it becomes the culture. And by creating that intensity of customer outcomes and that I don't ever want the client, to me, it's not that the client sets the standard, directive does. If the client set the standard, they wouldn't have hired us in the first place. They could keep it in-house because they would know exactly what they needed to do. So just because the client's happy doesn't mean I think the work's good enough. So I have the highest standard. I bring that energy every day where somebody's like, oh yeah, the client loves this campaign. And I look at it and I'm like, what about these 3 other things that we normally do that would have gotten more results? So I'm constantly pushing what great looks like so that becomes the culture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're right we found that when we're auditing past accounts with clients, when clients come to us, we specialize in demand generation. A lot of the clients that come to us are Series A to C that have worked with someone that has messed it up and they've not been able to figure out, and they want to bring somebody in that can overturn this very, very quickly. And the bar is not that high. And that's something that I've been quite surprised with as we've started to, obviously we've grown in the last 2 years and our clients have grown from more of the Series A up all the way through to Series C companies now. And the bar is not that high, but you have to constantly push that bar higher if you want to differentiate yourself. Now, I'm curious, when you talk about, the onboarding from disruptive is like the Navy SEAL boot camp. Do you have a lot of people that weed out then in the first 6 months?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who hate us. Just because they don't align with our values.
On the employees
side?
Yeah,
there's a lot of employees that end up hating our organization because of how strong its values are around what hard work and I think like honoring customers looks like. I'm not really a micromanager. I'm just a standards kind of leader guy. So I'm not really a manager. I'm more of like set the vision and hold people accountable to our potential kind of guy. And I think a lot of what people like there's two types of humans in this world. There's people who live to work, and there's those who work to live. Directive is very much a like live to work company. So if you want to come in and like push buttons, clock in, clock out, and I'm not saying work crazy hours like I work. I would never want you to do that, but it's the energy you bring, right? So like I want you to bring a certain level of intensity. I call it commitment-based culture. So this is essentially how it works. First and foremost, I want you committed to yourself. Like I want you to be a career person. So if you're not a career person, you don't work very well at Directive because you're just treating it like a job. And I don't treat it like a job. I treat it like it's everything in my life. And so the culture is first and foremost I call it a commitment-based culture is how I define our company. So first it's commitment to oneself. Then it's commitment to the team you serve or the team you're on, right? We're all on a team. And it's usually like a department team or even within that, a pod. And then lastly, it's a commitment to the overall values and vision of the organization. If you have those three things, you've got a job for life with me. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're not committed to yourself in the sense that you're not trying to develop yourself, you don't approach each day like you could get better. Like there is more for you in this life, that there is something you could go out and accomplish, then you're going to be in direct conflict with our culture and you're going to hate us for it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
What I'm not okay with is apathy. And so what I'm constantly trying to do is make sure we're holding that standard of honoring not just our clients and the company, but honoring our own potential. Like every day I'm trying to get better, and I want to work with people who actually are trying to get better at their craft in every moment. And when I find those people, I hold on to them for dear life because they're the most special and fun people in the world to work with. And I think I've got about 150 of them right now.
Got you. I'm curious with the hours you work, 10 to 12 hours a day, you say you're working, and I imagine that's not just 5 days a week, judging by the conversation.
No, I try to keep it at 5 days. I try to keep off on the weekends. I work a little maybe Sunday morning, but I do try to stay off on the weekends. I still need like something. I'm not a robot. I wish I could be, but I'm not.
How do you avoid burnout then, working 12-hour days?
I don't.
Okay.
I have burnout just like everybody else. I just pretend I don't.
Is that it's just living with it?
Yeah, I just mentally overcome it. Like I just beat burnout like it's any other obstacle in my life. I think my mentality to life is the only thing that can stop me is myself. And so if I think myself is going to stop me, then I need to adjust how I'm treating myself. Right? So you have to stay self-aware of oneself. But I don't do it in a sense of like, I've been defeated or I need a break or I'm going to give up. I just work harder. Like to me, there's like two people. Right? There's a fire and the one guy runs into the fire and one guy runs away.
Yeah.
So for me, I just try to run through it. And I've had breaking points just like everyone, but I would never allow the breaking point to beat me yet. I'm not saying it won't ever beat me or that I won't, that I can pull off everything I want in life. But my mentality is one that like I can beat this, and it's usually through what I call thinking instead of working. So like most people, when things get really hard, they work harder. Mm-hmm. When things get really hard for me, I think harder. So I have a concept called pieces, not people. So like when people get stuck in problems, especially in agencies, they look around and they try to look at their team and the people they have, and they try to change those people. They try to make people things they are not. And then they are disappointed when that person fails them. What I have found is usually when I'm stuck with something, I'm underinvested in it. In other words, like if I'm not growing, I'm underinvested in sales and marketing. If I'm not retaining, I'm underinvested in customer service. If I'm not innovating, I'm underinvested in innovation and delivery. And so instead of trying to take my current team and like pivot their focus or get them to be more, I usually would instead add a piece. So create a new role in the organization so that this thing could be invested into, and then that opportunity for value creation can exist. So my trick to like not burning out and staying alive with how hard I want to push myself is by thinking harder, not working harder, and then designing my daily calendar in such a way that I have space to think. Because I burn out just like everyone else when I don't have enough space to process my emotion or my feelings or everything that's going on in my life and then solve it because I'm working so hard. So when I'm working 10, 12 hours a day, I'm not actually working, I guess, to a certain extent of like billable hours. I'm thinking and meeting with others and articulating things so that I can develop lasting, sustainable solutions. So what occurred today hopefully can be avoided 12 months from now. It's not going to be avoided tomorrow. It's not going to be avoided in 3 months. But if I can stay further enough and out, and I can stay 2-3 years out in my mentality, I can keep pushing and not burn out, if that makes sense.
It does. Do you find that you change the environment to foster that innovation with thinking? Do you sit at, you sit at your home office? Do you sit in the normal office? Like, how are you, when you say you spend more time thinking and planning, how do you get in the mind frame to be able to do that? I personally struggle to go from, head down working on something to, okay, I've got 2 hours now, and now I can think about more big picture things. For me, I have to get out. I have to change the location. I have to go out and really change my surroundings with that. Is that the same for you? Is there other ways that you do that?
Yeah, I've got 2 ways I do it, or 3, I guess. I like water, so hop in the bathtub, hop in the jacuzzi. For some reason, I've just found I enjoy water. I do well being in water, which is weird, but it works for me. Another way is coffee shop. So I'm only here doing this if I'm on camera with you doing, I do a lot of content. I try to talk about, I try to do PR. I try to grow the business awareness. Or if I'm in a meeting, I always want to honor someone, like if you're in a meeting with me, no Slack, no phone, no distractions. Like I am fully present with you, right? And I make that a big part of the culture, right? If I get a new exec and they're on their phone or they're checking Slack, I just call them out. And I just keep everyone locked in, right? We're locked in when we're working here. I'm not going to, I don't call you after 5 o'clock. I don't ask you to work weekends. But between 8 and 5, you're going to work like you've never worked before when you come to directives. That's a fact. And if you like that, we're heaven. If you don't like that, we're hell. But I'm not going to have you work extra hours. You're not working weekends, but we're locked in. So I would say I'm only here at my desk when I'm doing that. Other than that, I'm at a coffee shop, or I got like this bakery spot that's like bakery/bar. So if I'm sick, I can get chamomile tea at night. I'll put the kids down, hang out with my wife, and I'll go out, and I'll just get another hour in. Because it's like, as a leader, what's key is you deliver on your promises. We make micro promises every day, and that's what essentially develops our culture. And I can make a withdrawal or a deposit into the micro trust of our relationship, right? So if I had a meeting with Chris and I say, hey, Chris, I'm going to get you this tonight. I don't care if I tear my Achilles, if a plane crashes, if my kid's in the hospital. I'm going to somehow figure out how to get that to you tonight because I'm not going to ever break my word to you, period. That level is what makes me successful. Mm-hmm. And so I always make sure I can deliver on my micro promises, and I try to make a lot of micro promises. Because the more micro promises I create, the more micro promises you start to create for those you work with, and you become a better leader. Because things need timelines and due dates, and they can't be missed. Yeah. But if you as the leader miss your own timelines or your due dates and you don't keep your micro commitments, everyone around you begins to. So if you want to be a true leader, there's no excuses. There's no such thing as an excuse. You have to deliver what you say. And that's been my mentality, and I think that's why we've been able to grow.
And that precedent, I can only imagine, trickles down fairly aggressively through your team members as well.
Yeah, because I don't work with that many people anymore, right? We got a small exec team because we're large, and they've got VPs or directors and associate directors and senior strategists and specialists, and you have all these layers. So as a leader, if I dress casual, everybody dresses casual. If I start doing this, everybody starts doing that, right? You have to realize that you do dictate everything. And when people are upset with their team, they should usually be more upset with themselves. And I try to, when I'm frustrated with my group, I'll be pissed. I'll go through that emotion. But then I want to, ideally, as I've been maturing and trying to grow, get to the point of self-awareness, self-actualization, and like self-owning of what I contributed to why I'm frustrated, and focus more on what I'm going to do to fix it than telling other people what they did wrong. And I'm not great at that yet, but that's what I'm trying to develop, because the better I get at that, the more buy-in I get, the more respect I get, the more adoption I get, and I become more powerful as a CEO, because I can't be in the moment. So really all I can do is control the culture.
We are coming up on the hour right now, so we've only got a couple more questions, and I do want to be respectful of your time as well, obviously committing to the hour for this podcast. 2 more questions for you. As you've transitioned from being a marketer to being a CEO to now really, I mean, I call myself a CEO. I have no employees underneath me. I have subcontractors. It's not really the same thing. As you transition into becoming that true CEO, do you prefer that job responsibility and what you're doing day to day now, or are there times where you wish you could get your hands dirty and get back into accounts and really be a practicing marketer? Like, where is the passion for you?
Well, I did both still. So I still run our marketing. Like, I'll spend $3.8 million on marketing this year.
On internal marketing?
Yeah. I don't accidentally grow. I outspend everybody in the industry.
Awesome.
So I still get to be like CMO, CRO. So I work with my director of marketing almost every day.
Got you.
I still hop on sales calls. I still pitch strategy. In 2021, I did an all hands. So this will show you more of the intensity of directive. So every day in 2021, I think up until October, so about 8 months of 2021, I would get every person in operations, so every person in the work, on a call for 30 minutes, and we would publicly go through an account. And I would lead that. So every single customer got an all hands at some point throughout, multiple times throughout the year, where we would literally pull apart their strategy, pull apart how well they're hitting their goals, what they're working on. And I would look at it as a consultant and be like, okay, I think you have opportunities here, here, and here. I think we're missing here, here, and here. So no, I mean, I would like to think I'm still decent at my craft, and I take it very serious. So no, I still do marketing every day, but I primarily do it for our organization. But I mean, frankly, my budget's one of the biggest budgets in our client portfolio.
Which is an interesting angle to take. And again, it's almost that, I mean, going back to the soccer metaphor, it's the player-coach mentality, which is
I don't think I can take other people's money. Like, I don't understand agencies. This is a personal pet peeve of mine. Like, these guys love to tell everybody how great they are.
Yeah.
But they don't do it for themselves. Like, what the hell are y'all doing? Like, stop being full of crap. Like, if you actually are that good at advertising, why can't you advertise your agency? Oh, well, it's different, or just shut up. Okay?
Yeah.
You're the same as everybody else. If you're that good, do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. I think we're that good. I think last year we made $20 million on our own advertising. I think I'm that good at it. If I'm going to sell you something, I'm not going to sell you nothing that doesn't work for me. And that's what makes Directive entirely different. So my whole sales pitch to you, I'm doing myself. And I know it intimately. I know where it breaks when it goes to SDRs. I know why it doesn't work with AEs. I know what it all has to be, because I literally am putting every penny of my own money into the thing I'm selling you. And I do think that completely differentiates us.
It does, yeah. Drinking your own Kool-Aid, 100%. Because I can't tell you, again, how many agencies that aren't putting their own money behind their own marketing. They want to talk about how to run all these different campaigns, but they're not investing it themselves. It's a common trait.
Yeah, it's always easy to spend other people's money.
Absolutely. It's monopoly money at that point.
That's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, final question. For anyone that's listened to this and obviously wants to learn more about you, learn more about the company, learn more about your story. I think you have your own podcast as well. Like, how can they find out more about you?
Yeah, so I do a fun show with my buddy Brady every week called Original Marketing. And on Original Marketing, we just dissect ads we love and why we love them, and then we do full go-to-market strategy for random industry every week. So if you just like to think and listen and want just some entertainment, it's live on YouTube. We've got a full production team. It's pretty cool to watch. So that's pretty cool, fun. And then I do coaching for agency folks. So if you want coaching, feel free to talk to me. And then if you're looking to hire an agency and you're a tech company, we've got over $100 million in spend, and we're pretty decent.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. It was a real pleasure learning from you, learning from your story, and I'm very excited to see kind of where the growth continues to go. If it, obviously the rate that you're accelerating at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see. It's hard, man. It's hard work, so hopefully it works. But thanks for having me.
And that concludes this episode. If you have any questions, please head into the comments where you'll find all of the available links. If you have any questions on our sponsors, all the links will be in the description. Please stay tuned for the next episode.